Have you ever overreacted to something small and felt like a scared or angry kid instead of an adult? That's not immaturity. That's your inner child asking to be seen. Today, we're going to dive into child work, what it is, and why it's so important. You hear it everywhere, but this is something so powerful when we are working on healing and becoming whole that I feel everyone needs to wrap their head around just enough where they can start incorporating this into their lives. My name's Michael Berry, and I'm here with Justin. This is the new Ashla Podcast. Hello and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. Today we're diving into inner child work. I know this is more psychology rooted than it is in spirituality, but it's really starting to make waves within a lot of different spiritual communities. And you hear it everywhere, but it's so much more than just I have this inner kid who needs love and attention. It's understanding this complex being that resides inside of us.
Yeah. Well, don't forget that the fathers and the founding fathers of modern psychology were metaphysicians first. They were philosophers and metaphysicians. So it actually started more in the realm of spirituality and philosophy than it did science. It's just kind of balanced out now. So it's a very valid spiritual topic. But we don't just do spirituality here. We like to incorporate all the things that bring us balance. This world is full of all different kinds of schools of thought, and philosophy and psychiatry, they're already, that's where they started. So I'm really interested in diving into this topic today. It's not something that, we usually teach, that I would teach a student per se, but the Ashla path has a lot to say about this type of topic, and I can't wait to dive into it. So it's going to be.
Yeah. So for me, this is one of my favorite topics when working with clients because if we can understand our inner child, we can understand a lot of how our unconscious mind works. That is what fascinates me the most about inner child work.
Yeah.
So often when we go through things as a kid, the safety mechanisms, the different coping strategies, the way we needed to survive becomes our personality. And we end up repressing so much of who we are into what is this inner child. Now, you have two sides you usually fall into, and this falls into attachment theory and everything, where you become a perfectionist and someone who's a workaholic, and you end up drifting more into you need to have more play in your life. Your inner child craves play and you deny it. And then you have the other side, which is sort of the aimless child, where you know how to go party, you know how to have a good time, but you're aimless in life and have no structure. So that's really the two biggest themes. And there's so many paradigms of how this can play out, but those are the two big ones I see.
Yeah.
Is you either need more play in your life or you need more structure.
Right. Well, and let's just dispel something right now. And this is where spirituality comes into. This inner child is not a metaphor. It's not
No.
some distant memory that you may or may not have good recollection of. This is a very real living presence within you. It's there. It really is. So we're not just saying, act like a kid. Sometimes you need to, literally, right? So I want
100%.
people to understand these things as metaphors, like the show we did on the masculine and feminine energies. We weren't talking about biological things there. We were talking about the spiritual essence of those things that really in many of the world's philosophies and ancient religions was the thing that created the whole world. So they're not just metaphors. This is an actual living presence within you.
There was an interview I heard between Matthew Hussey, who's one of my favorite experts in relationship and dating, and he was being interviewed by Drew Barrymore. Was it Drew Barrymore? I think so, yeah.
He's a good interviewer, man. I like her interviews.
Yeah, it was a fascinating interview, but there was one key part of this interview that just like hit me so hard, and it was exactly how to describe inner child work. And he's like, "You were put here on this planet for one purpose, and that is to take care of this one human being, to meet
Yes.
its needs, to give it love, and to care for it. And that person you were put here to take care of is you."
Yeah.
And it's like, God. That's exactly it. Again, the whole like structure or play. It's like when you're someone who's a workaholic and you're trying to go for numbers and trying to prove your worth, you end up forgetting how to have fun and let loose. And on
Right.
the other side, it's like when all you know how to do is play and have fun, that's how you've coped with life your whole life. You need to start having systems so you can be accountable with yourself. You can start working towards a dream and tap into your masculinity. Your Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a person that you were and is still with you. It's been with you
Yeah.
the whole time, right? And as
Yeah.
you said a minute ago, this is a part of us that was shaped in the most, in our earliest days.
Yeah.
What ages would you say? 0 to what?
0 to 7 is
0 to 7.
definitely would be
So,
the most critical years.
and it's all the things. It's the whole, everything in totality that you experience, the joy, the pain,
Yeah.
the good and the bad. And, this is a presence within you that used to love without fear, and who felt things deeply and didn't care who or why,
Yeah.
who only had like this pure connection with everything around him. So, like this unguarded sincerity. They just, I think back as a kid, and, in a lot of ways, and I'm sure everyone can kind of resonate with this. We get more jaded, and we get more cold, and we get more distant, and we get more, we turn into cactuses sometimes. And it's just really hard to, but it can be a difficult thing to go back there to those things. You can. And that's, I mean,
Yeah.
that's literally the whole core of what we do here. We try to get back to those good parts of ourselves and let them out and resonate back with them again. So, just the amount of innocence and wonder and curiosity. And it was really, it was really hard to see kind of the negative in people when you're younger,
Yep.
because you're just taking it all in unconditionally. 0 to 7 is probably a good range. After that, you're in school, and then you start to not like people at
Yeah.
school.
Well, I mean, it ties so much in our teachings, this work, because it's all about, we talk about authenticity. That is the number one goal of our teachings,
Mhm.
is to cultivate this authenticity where you are fully showing up as you, whatever that looks like for the day. And getting in touch with this part of you is how you start doing that, because it'll tell you what you want, what you need. And in turn, with a system where you're working together, you can create this harmony that is so full of abundance
Right.
between the left and right sides of your brain. It's phenomenal, all the research behind this.
But yeah, I mean, but also, just as much as the good stuff that I just talked about, this is also the time where we kind of start pushing away the hurt and the wounds, and we forget, because you don't really have boundaries. You just trust, but we start to, our compassion starts to harden, and we start to develop coping mechanisms and things like that.
Yeah.
And then, where we're actually trying to survive as a kid, if there's a lot of bad things happening around you, it just becomes part of your operating system at some point, and it doesn't go away. That carries on into your adult lives.
Yeah.
You know, that's why they
Well,
always
it's
say,
like,
for people who have the biggest trouble, which is a lot. No one's alone in this. I just want to put that out there right now. No one's alone in this, but you know, we literally become the person that we needed to protect us, that needed to,
yeah.
right? So,
Oh, it's so true, though. One thing I just got to say is, like, Michael Singer, one of my favorite writers, spiritual teachers, and he talks about how the journey to awareness is when you're removing layers of preference, right?
mhm,
It's the more we can remove these identifiers of this is good, this is bad, the more we can get in touch with who we really are. We stop labeling things, and we just let our souls tell us, I'm magnetized toward this or I'm not. And
right,
that's this exact energy, right? It's not, we get calloused over time because we start making these preferences, these judgments about what's good and bad, not just with the world, not just with other people, but with ourselves.
yeah,
And that's what really starts making this inner child so repressed. And that's
mhm,
what brought us to this point, like you're saying. It not only holds all this wonder and innocence, but it holds unmet needs, it holds pain, it holds the sadness that it had to carry through times of struggle where it wasn't seen, heard, or validated.
right, right,
And I
and
mean,
that,
we build our
yeah.
lives around that.
Well, yeah, we start seeking validation instead of truth. And we talked about the trauma, the 4 or 5 different trauma responses a few shows back. This is where all that stuff is built and decided and put into play, right?
Yeah,
So, and of course, here at Ashla, on our path, we teach that healing doesn't come from hiding or discarding, right? It's about
yeah,
work. It's about integration, aligning, facing it, calling it out, saying, I see, okay, I see you, right? And
yeah,
then and then learning to integrate it. Just like with anything else we talk about in our teachings and on this path, we don't ever exile or kill. Like we don't do the whole kill the ego thing. We integrate.
Yep.
We align, right? Same thing with our inner child. We don't exile it. We don't do the things to it that everybody did to us when we were little. That's just compounding the problem. We face it. We say, I see you, I hear you, right? And we
Yeah.
invite them back to integrate with us as we are now. Of course, we can't ever go back to being 7, right?
Yeah.
But we can integrate them now because they are just as much a part of us as anything else that's a part of us.
Yeah. You know, one of my favorite exercises to do when I'm doing inner child work, and I've done this so many times and it's been so beneficial, when I realize I have these triggers or these moments where I have this repressed emotion,
Mm-hmm.
because all this happens at different times in our life, and when we get activated, when we get triggered, we get regressed to that age where that emotion got stuck. And I love to do visualizations and even certain types of hypnosis. There's stuff online for it. I can't remember the lady's name, but I'll put a link to her stuff on here.
Yeah.
But you allow yourself to go back into that time period and you sit with that younger version of you. You
Mm-hmm.
give them what they needed. If they needed to scream and yell, let them scream and yell and tell them it's okay to feel that way. If they need to cry, hold them. The more you can put this image in your mind and be there for that inner part of you, the more you're going to get into these stuck emotions and help them start releasing.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
Yeah, and this is one of the most misunderstood aspects of this, of the idea of healing trauma. That at least from my perspective is that yeah, it hurts, but it's not just getting hurt; it halts you. You are frozen in time, even emotionally, especially emotionally. So,
What's
and
like
if you
my
never,
motto on trauma.
like I said, if you never call it out, if you never face it and call it out, acknowledge it, say, "I see you, I hear you," it doesn't disappear. You just get more stuck, and it digs in. It gets harder to get to.
I mean, you start layering on there, you make excuses for it, you start creating all these blinders where it allows you not to see this part of you. It's crazy how much psychological coping we do unconsciously. But it's
Well,
like when I look at trauma, my definition of trauma is never what happens to you. It's how
right.
you internalize the things that happen to you.
Well,
Which is why
that's
you
the
can't
only thing
define
that's real.
trauma. Say what?
That's the only thing that's real
Yeah.
is how you interpret it. I mean,
Yeah.
or how it affects you. And this is why, and I think I've said this on another show, like early on this podcast. But I used to have, because I was ignorant to this. I used to have this scale of things that happen to people who get more kind of leeway from others. You know what I mean? Like, guy gets PTSD from war, somebody gets PTSD from being physically and mentally abused, or somebody gets in a car accident and is traumatized severely. And I used to I don't know if I believed it, but I kind of just always thought there was a scale of, okay, this person, you know, can be more wounded than this person. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what happened. You could be dive bombed by a flock of crows, and
Yeah.
it end up with some serious PTSD.
You know, and I
You know,
really want our listeners to take that in because the key thing here is when we go through crap in our lives, and this is where we get stuck so often, is we are like, oh, I shouldn't feel bad about this. Other people have it worse. That's not
exactly.
that bad. And it's like we cannot go through life with that perspective. That was my toxic positivity I went through. I was always, people have it worse than me. Oh, that's not that bad. I'm fine. I'll get over it. And I never allowed myself to just be like, that really sucked. That wasn't
Right.
fair.
Yeah.
Like, we
Well,
got to
yeah.
validate our experiences.
If someone was abandoned as a kid, right, and they were put through the system and they were just kind of passed around from foster to foster to foster, and I know somebody like this very intimately. She's my wife, but I'm just using this as an example. If that's not healed, if that's not faced, if that's not called out and integrated and aligned with, so that healing can happen, somebody she could be on a date and get triggered to a serious traumatic episode just because she was rejected or something, because again, these things are deeply rooted. And so this is why I learned that, what, it doesn't actually matter what happened. That's not the important part. The important part is how that person internalized it, because That's just the way it is. That's what's real for them, not what's actually triggering them, how they internalize it and how it caused them um, trauma. And I think a lot of people kind of say, because like I'll use a different example. Like I see these videos every once in a while where somebody parks in a handicap spot and someone will come up to him and say, "Hey, you're not supposed to park there." He's like, "Well, I got my placard." "Well, you don't look handicapped." Get out of here with that. Just because someone doesn't look handicapped doesn't, like, you don't know what's going on with them. Maybe I don't know, but it's that kind of thing, and there's a lot of taboo, is what I'm trying to say here. There's a lot of taboo around these things. There's a lot of, because people always just immediately go to judgment and say, "Oh, well, you just broke your leg. If that's not that traumatic, but people have it worse." Well, it doesn't matter what happened to them. It's what triggered something much older than that, probably,
Yeah.
right?
Almost always.
Yeah.
Well, and it's even like the guy who would be getting on the person who was parking in the handicap spot. Guaranteed that dude's getting triggered from something back in when he was a kid. Maybe he was told he was too weak if he was trying to slow down in gym class and that he had to keep pushing through.
Mm.
And it's this trigger that then comes up where it's like, I got to suck it up. Everyone else has to suck it up. We talk
Right.
about generational trauma, which is a big buzz thing nowadays. But let's look at what generational trauma is, all right? You have a dad who is aggressive with you and beats your butt when you're acting out, and then you
Mm-hmm.
grow up, you have that vendetta. I want to be a better parent, but then you have kids. You haven't worked through the crap you
Right.
went through as a kid. And next thing you know, you're spanking your kids' butts, and it's like
Right.
that's how this stuff gets passed down. People don't face the wrong that happened to them, and they end up perpetuating it. You see it in relationships, especially in younger kids, where they get cheated on, and in their next relationship, they cheat on someone because they had that happen to them. And it's just, we don't address the pain we go through. We don't address all the different emotions and things that come up within us, and it perpetuates bad behavior
Right.
because we end up trying to validate our experience
Yeah.
in an
Yeah.
unhealthy way.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, suppression is not the way. Integration is the way. Emotionally, because if we regress, or when we regress emotionally, mentally, and even energetically, it's just putting us back in that place where we're stuck.
Yeah.
And this is how you really start to become aware. You start to build that awareness around this. If you find yourself getting put back in this one place where you were stuck, and
Yeah. Trauma
that,
responses.
yes, right. The the fun word is being triggered. Oh my God, this person's triggered. Look at them, they're triggered, right? That word's
Yeah.
become a really big buzzword too. But there are triggers that put us back in those spots that we haven't dealt with, right? And
Yeah.
maybe we start
Regresses
dealing
us
with it if we
emotionally to
wanted
that
to,
age.
or subconsciously we're like, nope, didn't like that back then. Don't like it now. It's just gonna
Add fuel to that
push
fire.
you down. Yeah, yeah. And this isn't about acting out. It's just it's a cry for presence.
For these things to be dealt with. Our psyche wants us to face this stuff, and that's why we're so drawn to it. You look at attachment theory. Attachment is fascinating. We are attracted to the people that will simulate the trauma we have gone through.
Mm-hmm.
That we are attracted to pain. It is we don't know it. We don't think about. We're not like, this person's got a lot of red flags. I'm into this. But
Right.
there's an unconscious desire that we are attracted to these kind of people, and it's because our soul is craving for us to deal with the crap we haven't dealt with.
Yeah.
And so it will recreate the same situations over and over again until we either get better or we get bitter.
Yeah. And we usually get bitter before we get better.
Yeah.
But just because you're bitter doesn't mean you can't get better.
Yeah.
So
And we
if you
all
find
struggle
yourself,
with this.
we do. Well, and for me, I again, I'll go back to the pause method. I use the pause. I've been using it forever and ever and ever, far back as I can remember. But you know, if I find myself stuck emotionally, or I just can't get out of whatever box I put myself in, if I'm triggered or if I'm reactive, I pause and then I breathe, right?
Yeah.
Pause, breathe.
Yeah.
And then it's time to kind of look. Okay, wow, I haven't experienced that in a long time. What caused that to come back out?
Yep.
What caused me to be facing this part again? What part of me is speaking to me right now?
When one of the beautiful things is like if you have a strong relationship with someone, you have someone who's working on this with you. I know me and
Yeah,
my wife, we do it all the time. If one of us gets triggered, we can be like, "Hold on a minute. I am feeling like I'm 13 right now.
right.
Let's talk about these emotions I'm feeling and let's figure out how we can work around this or what's actually going on here." It's
Yeah,
like the last couple nights when we go to bed, she doesn't bring her phone to bed, and I have all my phones are on home automation. And so every night she's like, "Hey, can you turn off the lights in the living room?" And I do it every night. I might say some snappy things back, just a playful banter, but I realize I'm like, I'm getting irritated by this. Why am I getting irritated being told to turn off the lights when they need to go off? I'm not going to remember, so she's just helping me remember. And but it's like I was getting triggered, and when we can have those kind of conversations, I will look at her. I'm like, "Hey, I don't know what's coming up for me right now, but I am getting triggered by this. I feel
yeah,
irritated when you ask me to do this. It's nothing on you. You're not doing anything wrong, but there's something here. We should dive into this next time."
yeah, yeah. Well, and we're talking about triggers. I have two F words for you.
All right.
Trigger is not a failure. There's the first F word. Think of it like a flashlight. You get triggered. That's a signal.
Okay.
That's a message. That is your chance to illuminate. Like what you just said. Why the hell am I so annoyed by this? Why is this irritating me? Because I get
Yeah.
irritated by little things. Over all these years, I've gotten myself to the point now where aliens can attack, and I'm just calm waters. But if the handle on the cabinets catch the pocket of my shorts, man, I'm just like, how dare you? I turn into Doctor Doom, man. I'm like, how dare you?
You know.
So yeah, think of it as a flashlight, not a failure. A lot of people get hard on themselves when they're triggered. Because a lot of people will say to them, "Oh my God, why are you getting triggered about this? Well, oh my God." They make a big deal about the person
You
getting
know.
triggered instead of saying, "Hey, you got triggered by that. Didn't seem like a big deal to me. So let's talk about why you're so irritated by this little tiny thing." Heather and I do it all the time too, because I
Yeah.
will. I'll just get it. Like if I bump my head on something, man, I swear to God, I want to rip the cabinets off the walls and Hulk smash them sometimes because it's just like it was a series of tiny little things that annoyed me. And then
Yep.
eventually that was the last thing that did it. Why are you so, she'll ask me, okay, why are you so annoyed by that? And it forces me to stop, pause, breathe, and then I don't know. I don't know why I'm annoyed by that. But then we
Right.
talk about it. We go through it. I was like, well, it just pissed me off that it hit my head. It bumped me. No, you bumped your head into it because you weren't paying attention, right?
Yep.
A cabinet can't come out and smack you. You smack yourself on the cabinet, right? And so,
Yep.
so, so we recognize that triggers aren't failures. They're messages. They're flashlights. They shine a light on what it is if we let it. Now we can just continue on and go, Hulk smash the cabinets and then go about our day. And then tomorrow realize, crap, I gotta get a new cabinet because I pulled it off the wall.
Well, then you get that shame, you get that guilt,
Yeah.
all these other things that come with it. It can be a spiral when we feed into these responses.
Well, and especially if you're not with a very supportive ecosystem around you, they will shame you. They will, and I'm fortunate. I'm great. I'm grateful, and you're blessed also to not have to deal with that
Yeah.
because I can smash a cabinet pretty quick, pretty easy too. But then I'm the one that has to put it back up there.
Yep.
And I want to point out about triggers. It's not about what's happening right now. It's about something that happened that was never fixed, right?
Yep. 100%. One thing that breaks my heart is you see this in society, all these buzzwords people are getting in spirituality. When it comes to triggers, they're like, "I'm just not going to deal with people that trigger me," and it's like, what is wrong with you? Like you cannot do that. You start doing that, you're going to eventually find yourself very alone because
Yeah,
that's
and
part of
very
connection.
and very troubled. Those kind of people do not resonate or are not drawn to Ashla because as Michael will tell you, it's a house of mirrors over here. You don't get to. We go slow. We could go slow. Look, we could take 20 years. It doesn't matter. Eventually, you're going to get through this. It's not a race, but it's also a house of mirrors. As I'm sure you guys know by now, we teach, encourage, you know, give people space to do that because again, this is something that happened long ago. You may not even remember what it was that caused this, little core memory thing to pop up in your head,
Yep.
But
When most people don't even think about it like that. They're just, I'm triggered, I'm in the moment, I am
right,
feeling all this, and little do they realize this little pocket memory in there. I mean, you look at how you respond to conflict, whether you're shutting down, you feel helpless, you throw tantrums, you're begging or over apologizing. Ask yourself, is this how I behaved as a kid? Most likely, yes. And it served you as a kid, it kept you safe, it was how you coped. And I mean, this is what trauma responses are. It is our inner children getting activated and regressing us to that age. And if we
yeah,
want to be able to deal with triggers, we got to be able to hold space to feel what that child didn't feel safe feeling then. If
mhm,
they throw tantrums, did they get to feel sadness? Did they get to feel like to feel that helplessness? You know, if they shut down, did they ever get to feel in control of their own situations? They're afraid of having control over those kind of situations. You know, and it all ties into these childhood memories that are regressed inside of us that we got to rekindle and repurpose. You know, it's the restoring is the most important part of psychology, working with a therapist. You go over your trauma so that you can decompress the energy and change the narrative. You
right.
can't change what happened, but you can change the story you tell yourself about it. And that is,
Well, and it's something to note also that these things are attached to your nervous system, you know, um, and
that's how it speaks to you.
it does, right? And here's the interesting thing for me about this topic is that you could be old and wise and I mean just hit 12 years old again. And because again, it's not you're not responding with who you are today if you hadn't moved on from some of those blocks that you created. You're reacting from when that trauma took place where you were
Yeah.
frozen in time. So that's why you could be the wisest guy, you could be the wise man on the hill, and then a grasshopper jumps on your face, and then all of a sudden you are 8 years old again,
Help.
and you're having some outburst that really is probably a lot extra for what really happened, right? And this is why it's really hard to get support for stuff like this around you because people are around you and they're going, oh my God, this guy is smashing freaking cabinets. All he did was hook his shorts on it or bump his head, right? And they're looking at you like, this guy is a wacko. This guy's a nut job. This guy,
We,
because they see the 48-year-old man, Hulk smashing the cabinets,
help.
but that's not a 48-year-old man Hulk smashing the cabinets. It's that 11-year-old kid or whatever. So
Well, I mean, this ties into a good point. If you're new to this work, if you've never done this before, one of the easiest things you can do when you get triggered, when you go through that, you might have to wait till after the first couple times, but ask yourself, what age did I feel like? What age was this behavior at? And often you'll find where you should start looking for that unhealed trauma that's buried underneath.
yeah, and it turns that trigger into a teacher.
Yep.
All right.
Freaking
And,
A.
and the door will open, and you'll be like, oh, okay, if you dare, let's walk through. Let's let
Yeah.
it unfold now from here. And you may not catch every single one that happens after that because there will be many more that happen after that. But you might catch every other one or every third
Yeah.
one, right? And eventually you'll start catching them each time, and then eventually it'll hit, and you'll be like, not today.
Yep. I
Yep.
got this. Start building that self trust with that inner child, showing them
Right.
you can handle this from here. You now you will protect them.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful sentiment when you can really embody that. Like, I'm here for you. I am going to prioritize you now. And one thing I just got to say with this is, and we say it in every episode whenever we're telling you how to work on yourself and go through this stuff, have compassion for yourself, especially your inner child. Like, we are all flawed human beings trying to figure out how to live the best lives we can. And it is a messy process, and it's okay for it to be messy. It's okay to slip and fall. It's okay to have these issues. It is
Mhm.
normal. So just give yourself grace and compassion as you do this work.
Yes, and employ courage. One of our
Yes.
agreements. Because we need to learn not to fear our wounds. This is why we use the light to heal them. And many wounds are layers deep. And we just go layer by layer by layer with patience and courage and a little mercy. That doesn't hurt either. whole lot of grace.
So, we were talking earlier about how there's the two spheres that most of these inner children fall in between, and one needs structure and one needs play.
Hmm.
So, what are your thoughts on this?
So we have to learn the language. We have to learn how to speak to ourselves, and in this topic, our inner child. And we don't speak with words; we speak with how we start to care for that inner child, right? We have to learn what they need. We need to learn what hurts them. We need to learn those needs, that those unmet needs. Because being a grown up is really complex, wouldn't you say?
Yeah,
We have really complex lives, and it's just the way the world is when you're grown up, right? But like you're saying, there's only really two things that our inner child needs: is that structure or play, and these aren't opposites. They're
yeah, it's
more
a
like
balance, right?
companions. Yeah, they're like more like companions. We all grew up with one and not the other, really.
Yeah,
And it comes down to, were you neglected or were you controlled?
yeah,
So
right.
let's start with the neglected child, inner child. It's someone who was left to fend for themselves, literally in every aspect, emotionally, physically, probably spiritually too. You don't really develop a good feeling of safety, right? You're always like, there's always something out there, man. You hear noises in the woods, you know what I mean? And it makes it hard for them to understand where they belong, what their purpose is, where, if they're even worthy of being here or there, or worthy of themselves. And they don't need more of that. They don't need more chaos. You don't need to introduce more chaos. You need to introduce structure. You need to start giving yourself very consistent, predictable routines, right? You need to erect boundaries,
You have
even
to.
for yourself. Again, consistency is very important. And for us, we deal with a lot of this through the development of self-discipline, but not the kind of self-discipline that, you get whipped if you don't get in line. It's rooted in love.
Yeah,
So
I'm
think of
doing
it
this
more like,
for you, not because I have to.
yeah, right. So like you and I have talked about before, how I teach, right? It's more of like a stewardship. Think of it like that.
Yeah,
I am guiding you. I'm not whipping you into conformity. Watching out for you. It's a stewardship. It's the way to show, and you have to do this for your inner child. If there was, if structure is what you need, and you need to do it, you need to steward that kid. You need to show them that they're safe and protected, and no matter what's going on around them, they'll have that.
I highly recommend find a professional, a mentor, a coach. Find someone who can help you hold yourself accountable. Someone maybe in your personal life that you trust enough to have that type of responsibility that can help you start setting those goals. Because the biggest thing we got to do is we got to meet reality where it's at, and we got to, if we need more structure in our lives, ask where's my structure now, and what would be the next realistic step for me to
Yeah,
be able to cultivate that. Don't look at what you want to become. Look at what is the next reasonable step for me to have a slightly better life.
yeah, and the next one is that kid that was controlled, like micromanaged to death, or shamed, right? I think those
Yeah.
two kind of both go hand in hand here, because if you're constantly criticized or micromanaged or made to feel like your happiness was just too much, you just too extra,
Yep.
they learn to suppress. So what do they need, Michael?
They need
They
play. They need to
they
learn
need
how to be
right.
expressive.
They need
Creativity
yeah.
outlets.
I wonder how many of the world's potential great creators, inventors, artists never ever came to fruition because of this. What do you think?
Oh, so many. You look
Yeah,
at most genuinely great creators, and they were horrible in school. They had poor social skills, and they became people who innovated the world.
yeah, yeah. Um, and we're not talking about, someone out there is going to be like, you guys are extra as hell, because that's very irresponsible to encourage adults to play. It's not irresponsibility. It's a resurrection. It's a remembering. It's a reintegrating. Yeah. you know,
We
how
got
many
to.
how many of our great spiritual teachers over the thousands of years told us to be more childlike, Every single one of them, man.
You know?
Everyone I've ever read about or followed or learned about or learned from in some way, shape, or form told us, commanded us even, be more childlike.
Yeah.
Because, it's important.
It's vital.
It is. It really is. So this is interesting, and I want to get your take on this. As we're going through these two different types of needs and traumas, this is where we start to see the generational cycles begin, right? Because if you're a
Yeah.
kid that didn't get to express, then as a parent, you go overboard. If you were a kid that didn't feel safe, as a parent, you go overboard that way. You start to control. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. No, that was my mom. My mom was raised that she couldn't run in the park. She's going to hurt herself. And then I was raised to fear the world. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
you can't get on the bicycle. You're going to get hit by a car and die. All these different things. And yeah, it just perpetuated itself.
Right. Yeah. It's and I don't know if we're going to get into it, because I think we were talking more about these personal thing. But how does someone break that generational trauma?
You know, the number one thing's awareness. Once we're aware of these things that operate us, like for instance, having a fear of the world, once you realize that there is just this, your soul has put itself in a position because you were conditioned to believe the things were unsafe, and you don't like to step out of the comfort zone where you're not safe. So do
Yeah.
little things where it's uncomfortable. Go ride a roller coaster. Go pick up a sport. Put yourself a little out of your comfort zone and start cultivating resilience in this area. Teach yourself that things are safe
Yeah.
and that it's okay if it's a little dangerous. You know,
Right.
I think that's one of the key things we can do. Just awareness, and then what practical steps can I start taking to reverse this belief, not in my mind, in my body? Because
Yeah.
that's the key to this. Is it's a visceral reaction we have to things, and we got to teach our bodies that we are safe, whether that is going out of our comfort zone or learning that it's okay. I don't have to get angry every time someone crosses a boundary. I can have a conversation and still be
Right.
respected.
Right. Right. So how do we know?
How do we know?
How do we know that our inner child needs our attention, our awareness? How do we?
Listen to your nervous system. Once you're triggered, once you feel that anxiety, even if nothing's triggering you in the moment, what am I feeling right now? Learn to get in touch with your body. You know, your body is full of messages, and you can learn so much about how you operate as a person because little do
Yeah.
we realize our thoughts are nothing but projections of the sensations in our body. If you don't feel safe, you're not going to have safe thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
If you're angry, you're not going to have loving, peaceful thoughts.
Right.
Learn to separate these things
I
and
wrote
just to
this so
get into your body.
angrily.
Yeah, right. You
Yeah,
know,
you can be angry at people you love, but it's really hard to love and anger at the same time. I think. Yeah.
yeah.
I haven't perfected that yet.
You'll get there. I have faith. I
Yeah.
have faith. One thing I want to touch on is when we have in psychology, they talk about in dysfunctional families that there are
Mhm.
five child roles, and this is a great place for people who are new to inner child work to learn how they functioned as a child and find resources to help learn to work with it. So in dysfunctional families, there is roughly five roles people fall into. You
Mhm.
have the family hero, which is the one who's taking care of the kids, cooking dinners, trying to get straight A's, working at 14, overachiever. You know, you have the mascot who is a little immature, hyperactive, but at the same time a little fragile, depends too much on the family dynamic to feel safe. You
Mhm.
have the enabler who just likes to try to manipulate and push people to do silly things and instigate. You have the problem child who's going out there doing graffiti, who's trying to be defiant to get that attention. And then
Mhm.
lastly, there's the lost child, which is the one who's shy and quiet, who would vanish into their rooms and stay busy. That was me growing up. I was a lost child. I dissociated as often as I could, playing video games, watching TV, my own worlds.
I was the
And
first one.
I had a hunch. I
Yeah.
was wondering out of the bunch which one you would fall into, and Family Hero was my guess.
Well, a lot of and a lot of firstborns, I think, would agree that they probably fell into that too.
Yep.
The firstborn kids.
Yeah. And so if you can identify this, that'll help you be able to figure out one, what was events could have created these regressions, but two, what can you do to start working around the insecurities these emotions you've repressed have created within you?
Mhm.
And it's all about the more awareness you can cultivate, the better. And those 5 roles are a great way to start looking into your trauma and how to work through it.
Yeah.
So, what are some signs as far as I know we were just talking? How does our inner child speak with us? You know,
Yeah.
what are
All
some other
three.
ways we know?
Uh, just these super over the top emotional responses to really really small things. And I don't say that as to be disrespectful to somebody who gets triggered by small things. I'm not saying that what people went through was small or big. It's really not what we're talking about. But it's like, if the example I was sharing with you, with all of you
Yeah,
actually, where I was like, it bumped my head and I want to rip the. There's a lot of funny
yeah,
videos I see where the guy, if you see the video, the guy that's walking up the stairs and the plant bumps his head and he turns around and just Hulk punches it across the
yeah.
street. You know, like that's probably not, a very mature, wise way to react, but it's a reaction. People who are big time people pleasers, or they want to be perfect with everything, or they're scared to make mistakes, which
Yep.
really messes them up if they're a perfectionist and they're scared to make mistakes. God, that's got to be a circus.
Well, I've seen it so often where you have those people so in their heads that are afraid of making mistakes. And because of their fear of making mistakes, they make more mistakes, which then perpetuates the fear that much more. And it's this vicious cycle of just shame and doubt and guilt. And it just gets worse and worse. It's a tunnel effect.
Right. Another sign that I came up with was panicking because you think that you're going to be abandoned, or someone's going to leave you, or someone doesn't love you anymore. And on the other end of that you're too much all the time. I'm always too much.
Go back to attachment theory. I mean, you have the dismissive who tries not to say much because they don't want to be misunderstood.
Hmm.
And so they hold back expressing themselves. And then you have people on the anxious spectrum, and they over explain everything. Those are the people who send you the book long text messages because they want to make sure they cover all the bases so that not a little bit was misunderstood and you understand their intentions. And it's,
But then they go into a panic attack because they think you're just going to leave them anyway.
yeah, you send them a thumbs up and they're like, oh no, no.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. What's your least favorite response to a text message?
I think K is actually my worst hater. When I see K, I get mad. I'm like, why are you pissed off right now?
Right. Right. Okay. So I'm not the only one that thinks that that's like some passive aggressive crap going on, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I also think it's part of being a Scorpio. I saw this video a while back that showed like Scorpio and Aries texting. It's like, how you
Mm.
doing, man? Well, how do you think I'm doing? Like,
My first wife, I think, was an Aries, and we did not get along very well at all. You and I know another Aries that doesn't like me very much either. And another one is where you really have trouble either setting or respecting boundaries, whether yours or other
yeah,
people.
it's
That's
so
another.
true though. So it's like, how can we start reparenting ourselves? Diving into getting in touch with that inner child. What are some practical steps we can take to start fostering that relationship? Because when you start opening up, it's hard when you start doing child work because it's just like all the other healing stuff where it's getting worse before it gets better. It's not going
Yeah.
to want to open up at first, and when it does, you're going to feel all these emotions. It's going to be this surge of like, first time parent. What do I do?
Yeah. Again, I go back to the pause method. That's the first thing I would do, or first thing I would
Do
say, is that when that huge tsunami of emotions come rising up to the surface, you pause, you breathe, and then you speak to yourself as you would a frightened child. I don't think
yeah,
there's anybody on this earth that I've ever met that would, if they found a kid, running around the store freaking out, looking for their mom, who would just scream at him, "Hey, what the hell are you doing?" I think
yeah,
most of us would talk to them to like try to calm down. Hey, buddy, what's going on? Where's your?
yeah,
You're missing your mom? Whatever. And you don't. And you're not going to shame them all. How dare you lose your mom? Oh, what a nerd! What's wrong with you? Whatever,
yeah,
right?
right.
You're going to talk to them with softness, and you're going to say something like, it's okay. I'm here with you. It's all right. You're safe. We'll find your mom, type thing, right? So, and that kind of creates this little miniature safe haven for yourself to move on through that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you brought up earlier, and I love it because if you can really acknowledge what he said, when he said that the person you are today, the person you have grown up into, is who your child self needed the most growing up. you'd realize you have all the tools necessary to make that child feel seen, heard, and valued. And, I think one important thing to note here is it's not about blaming your parents.
No,
Yes, you can learn a lot, even if your parents were horrible. Don't blame is never the direction we want to go with any of this
right?
work. We just use it as a source of understanding. That's all we can use it for.
Yep.
Otherwise, it just gets weaponized and it becomes another reason to carry weight on your back.
Well, and you just, again, you stay stuck. You stay stuck. And I don't care what anybody says. They're going to say, "Oh, you're full of crap, Justin." Okay, but you're wrong. You have to learn to move forward.
Yeah.
It wasn't your fault what happened to you, but it's your responsibility to heal.
Yes.
And that's a really hard thing to say, and it's a really hard thing to hear if if you're kind of stuck. But I say that with all the love in my heart. You have to. It's up to you. You're responsible for your healing. Another thing, we got to create boundaries that protect our peace. We must put peace and stillness in the forefront of our life. And to do that, you must establish boundaries.
No ifs, ands, or buts.
They're not walls, because then you're
Yeah.
just kind of, staring at a wall.
But again, you are the one person you were put here to take care of.
That's right. That's right. You got to be able to see yourself, and you have to be able to see the things you don't want to see, but you also get to see the things that you do want to see. So, routines and rituals that help you feel safe and happy. Right. That's another one. Just like children, they thrive in this rhythm, in this structure and routine, and
Yeah.
those help us too as adults. They're good for us, and it doesn't have to be rigid, but we really, as humans, we kind of really long for that predictability, the safety, and we do that through routine. We do that through doing kind of the same things over and over again.
Those neural pathways, right? The more we work those muscles, the more we ingrain those patterns, the
Yeah.
easier it becomes.
Another one is to make space and time in your life to be creative and to play. Discipline doesn't have to always be hard.
Right.
Discipline helps us get through the hard stuff, right?
Exactly.
So,
We got to learn how to enjoy life too.
Yeah. Go to a painting class. Go do karaoke. Go dance. Go out. Go outside and
Climb a mountain or something.
yeah. Build something. There's there's a million videos on YouTube that you can go buy some wood and build a birdhouse or something. Just do it for the fun of it. It's good medicine. Play and creativity is good medicine for our soul.
That's some of the best. The only thing I'd add is like community. The more you can have a support system to help you as you grow and do this work, the more you're not in an echo chamber, but you have people who can mirror and help you bounce ideas back and forth and support you while you're working through your crap. There is nothing more powerful. It just takes a level of accountability, it takes a level of honesty, and it takes a level of trust, not just in yourself, but in others. As we can just put our pride away and not want to show our scars, we can create so much more meaningful relationships because we're no longer trying to show someone we're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add before we jump into our final exercises?
No, actually, I don't. I think we covered it really well today. It's one of those topics that you either want to listen, either want to hear it or you don't. But eventually, you're going to have to face it. So why not now?
Yeah.
Start now.
If you're just starting, reach out to us. We're happy to help you start on the journey, help you start figuring out these hidden things lurking in the background that's been running the show this whole time.
Right. Happy to.
Well, shall we do an affirmative prayer?
Ah, yes. My new favorite part.
Don't lie, journaling's still your favorite. I know the truth.
I don't know. I've been praying longer than I've been journaling.
True that. Well, we'll close our eyes.
Close our eyes.
I call in presence, the presence of love, of truth, of safety. I open the door to the child within me, not to fix them, but to see them, to know them, to love them. I recognize that any part of me that still aches, still cries, still lashes out or hides, is simply a younger me asking for care, not correction. Today, I welcome that child home. I let them know you are not a burden. You are not too much. You are not forgotten. I declare now, I am the safe place I never had. I am the voice of gentleness I once needed. I am the structure and the softness, the boundary and the embrace. Where fear has frozen me, I bring warmth. Where shame has silenced me, I bring truth. Where I once felt alone, I now feel held by the adult I've become. May all the pieces of me across time and space be gathered into wholeness, be seen in compassion, be loved into peace. And so it is.
And so it is.
For our exercise today, I want you to close your eyes, take some deep breaths, get in touch with yourself. Picture that younger version of you that still feels wounded, and ask them, what do you need from me today? And imagine yourself giving them that. Do they need validation? Do they need a hug? Reassurance, structure, permission to play? Do they need love? Hold them. Give them what they need, what they never got before. And let them know that it's okay and that you're here now. And that you have their back. Spend time with them. Embrace them. Enjoy that moment. And once you know what it needs, come back and follow through, because there's nothing that kid needs more than someone who will follow through on what they tell him. For our journaling prompt today, what does my inner child crave more, structure or play? Where can I begin to build a safe container for that part of me to feel seen, loved, and free to express themselves? And lastly, our affirmations. I am safe to feel and heal at my own pace. My inner child deserves joy, stability, and freedom. I offer the structure I needed and the play I longed for. I am becoming the love and guide I once needed. Even when I regress, I remain worthy of compassion and care. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out the show notes to check out our new website and all the things we're starting to build up within our community. And as always, with love and gratitude, ad Lucium.
And Lucian.